We're going to do the second half of Chapter 2 of Science now. We talked in the first lesson about how the atmosphere was designed by God perfectly to take care of us and to sustain life, animal life, plant life on the earth. And now we're going to go on and talk about the rest of the chapter. I'm not going to read this to you. It's a lot of information and miles above the earth and temperatures and things like that. You can read that for yourself. Try to understand it as best you can. If you would like to do this blue box activity here on page 11 with your parents, you can do that. I'm not going to talk about that, but it's a fun little experiment. It requires a dish or a pie plate, some water, a jar like a mayonnaise jar, not a plastic jar, a glass jar, like peanut butter jar, and a candle. So it involves fire, so you need to get an adult to help you. But it's an interesting little experiment. So once you're done reading the book, the chapter, then you're going to go to this greenish box on page 12. And let's talk about that. That's going to go with this page, number 7. Atmospheric temperature. I made this for you. Isn't it pretty? Yay. All right. So you're going to take the numbers here at the bottom on this chart, and you're going to put them on this graph. So let's do this together, because some of you don't know how to do a graph yet. If you know how to do a graph, you don't have to watch this. You can come back and check your work at the end. You don't want to wait for me to go through all this. So we're going to look at the numbers they give us on page 12, and we're going to put them on this graph. So on this side of the graph, going up and down, is how high above the earth we are. I just said 7 kilometers. I changed it to 12. Some people say 7, some say 12. 50 kilometers, 80 to 85 kilometers, and way out in space at 640 kilometers. And here's all those terms that you read about in this second half of the chapter. The troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the ionosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. So we're going to put some numbers on here. Across the bottom, right down here is the surface of the earth. You see I do some little trees and a house and some birdies down there at the bottom. So 12 kilometers is about 7 miles up. Not real far, but above the earth. And then this is temperature going this way. Cold on this end. Whoops, let me move it up, sorry. This is temperature here. Cold on this end, hot on this end. Negative 100 to positive 60. And this is degrees centigrade. So 60 is hotter than it ever gets here, whereas to us 60 sounds like a winter day. So that's very hot. A hot, hot day in California is 40 degrees, 45 degrees centigrade or Celsius, we call it. So let's put these dots on here. I'm going to pause the video for a moment. All right, let's look at the numbers that they give us in the book. The first one is altitude 0, temperature 25. So what we do is we go to 0 off the earth, so that's right down here on the ground, and the temperature is 25. So we're going to go over here. Now you notice I didn't put all the numbers. I've got 0, 20, 40, 60, because they didn't have room to write in between all the little things. So you're going to go to 20. What's between 20 and 40? That one right there is 30. Halfway between 30 and 20 is 25. So you're going to put a dot right there. Let me bring it really close. Whoops. Don't want to drop the camera on the floor. Do you see the dot right there? I'm going to put a dot right there. So then the next one is 12. So this is 12 up into the air. And the temperature is negative 50. So we're going to find negative 50 down here. So here's negative 20, negative 40, negative 60. So half between 40 and 60 is 50. So we're going to go from the 50, we're going to go across kind of like in Battleship, and we're going to meet where the lines cross, and we're going to put a big old dot right there. So We've got one down here, got one right there. Next one, 50 kilometers up, the top of the stratosphere, right here. I also put it right there. And what's the temperature? 0. So here's 0, here's 50, and we go right here where the lines cross, and we put a dot. So it's warming back up as you go higher. Ooh, and then at 80, the temperature goes back down to negative 80. So here's 80 up in the air, 80 kilometers. Here's negative 80 degrees down here. So we're going to take the negative 80 and the 80, and where they crisscross right there, we're going to put a big old dot. I'm going to zoom out just a teeny bit. There we go. And the last one at 100. So this is 80, this is 640. So I put 100 right about there. It probably is not quite that far up, but that's okay. And the temperature is positive 50. So positive 50 is between positive 40 and positive 60. I'm going to go up that line until we get to this line, and we're going to put a big old dot. So the temperature kind of zigzags all around. So then the last step is to connect those dots with lines. So you get your ruler out. I'm going to do it by hand. That one, then that one, then that one, and then that one. So the temperature kind of goes down as you're going up, then it goes up as you get way high up here, then it goes way down, and then it goes way up as you get way out into space. And it tells you why, because way out in space, there's no air to protect you, so it's just like being on the moon. It's super hot sun. So the important part for us is this right here, the troposphere. So let me zoom in a little bit on that. So as you go up, the temperature goes way down. The temperature goes way down as you climb up. And it talks about that right here in the green box, right there. It says that every 1,000 feet you go up, the temperature goes down 3.5 degrees. If you didn't get all that on that graph, you should have paused the video and worked on it. So the temperature goes down 3.5 degrees for every 1,000 feet you go up in the mountains or up in the air. But we know that in our mountains here in California. Where do you find the coldest weather? Up at the top of the Sierras, right? Has anybody ever gone up there in the winter, in the snow? Come back down here, it's cold, but it's not that cold. In the summer, you go up there, it's 20 degrees cooler. It's nice up there on a day when it's 110 down here. Because for every 1,000 feet you go up, the temperature goes down 3.5 degrees. So if we go from here in the valley, which is basically 0 feet, up to the top of our mountains, which is about 8,000 feet, that's 8 little thousands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Every one of those, the temperature goes down 3.5 degrees. So all you fractions people, 3.5 times 8 is how many degrees? So what's the first thing you have to do? Turn this into a mixed number, or improper fraction rather. It is a mixed number. Turn it into an improper fraction. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7 halves times 8 over 1. Cross cancel. 4 times 7 is 28 over 1. So up at 8,000 feet, it's 28 degrees cooler than it is down here. So if it's 108 down here, what temperature is it up there? What's cooler? Is that adding or subtracting? You're right, it's subtracting. So we take 108, we take away 28 because it goes down. 8 from 8 is 0. 2 from 10 is 8. So when it's 108 degrees here in Reedley, or wherever you live, it's only 80 degrees up in the mountains. That's why I love the mountains. Plus I like the birds and the trees and the water and the rocks and all that stuff too. But it's nice up there. So this is an interesting thing that God has created. He gave us, here in California anyway, The mountains, where the snow goes to store water for us for in the summer. When the snow melts, it runs down into the valley and we use it to water our crops and drink and wash and swim and all those things. So God provided for us by providing these variations in temperature. Very interesting. Everything in nature, everything in God's creation was designed on purpose by Him to care for His creation. And that includes you.